Today we're going to be talking about Broja, how Chelsea have moved the goalposts on the deal. From a permanent deal to a loan deal, discussing what I think that means. I'm still trying to process it in my brain. We're going to be talking about Onana and maybe a little bit about Scamacca, but it looks like that deal is sort of fizzling out anyway. But yeah, all things to be discussed. It does look like something's happening, but also things are changing. Before I do, I want to say a massive thank you to Paul, and hello to Paul, who I'd never met before yesterday. Paul came down at the Reading game, introduced himself, but what he did, he brought with him an ice cold bottle of water, which he basically went and bought me an ice cold bottle of water because he thought I looked like I was overheating. He said, "Here you go, mate, nice to meet you. Enjoy the videos. Make sure you keep drinking that. You're working in the sun." So thank you very much, Paul. Lovely, lovely fella. Now, I'm going to assume you don't know the news, okay? And obviously, if you do, we'll skip past this bit pretty quickly. Here it is. We've been looking to buy Armando Broja from Chelsea. We've been looking to try and buy him on a permanent deal. You know the story. Tuchel wanted another look at him. However, it now transpires a couple of the newspapers are running with the story that Chelsea now only want to do a loan deal. I guess that's not massively surprising to me. It's the other part of the story which I think I don't like. I'm still trying to get my head around it. I don't quite have a strong opinion on it yet. And that is that we seem to be accepting that deal. That seems to be something that is attractive to West Ham. I don't think it's our first choice, but I think David Moyes, it seems, would like a loan Broja than no Broja, basically. My initial thought on this, as soon as I heard it, was, well, don't do it. That's no good. We mustn't do this, because you look at it, where's the advantage for West Ham in this? Well, I guess the advantage for West Ham is that David Moyes gets a player that he likes. But in terms of actually developing him, I'm not so sure. It seems like all the advantages with Chelsea. So, you know, if he has a really, really good season, he goes back to Chelsea. We've increased his value, and then we're back to square one. We're back to where we were, well, where we are this season, which is needing a striker. That was an immediate concern of mine, really. I think another one of my concerns was if he wasn't a permanent fixture, if he wasn't signed on a long-term deal, where is the incentive for David Moyes to use him? And I mean on a sort of regular basis. And I don't want to compare it too much to the Souček one, because Souček was on loan, because with Souček we had the option to buy. Now, apparently this loan deal is without the option to buy. And I just do wonder sometimes if, let's say we were getting in situations on the upcoming season, because he's not our player, would David Moyes use him? David Moyes has shown a capacity not to use players. I understand there's another example with Jesse Lingard, but I think at the same time he was trying to butter Jesse Lingard up, because there's one thing we understand about David Moyes is that he always hoped that Jesse Lingard would stay with West Ham or would sign permanently with West Ham. So I think all that time in that first loan deal, with Jesse Lingard I'm talking about here, he's very much saying to Lingard, look at what you can have at West Ham. You're the main man. This is how we will treat you. We won't treat you like Man United. I think this is very, very different here. And I do worry a little bit about how incentivised David Moyes would be to use him. And so I think my initial reaction was, well, if Chelsea are going to do this, and as I said, they are within their rights to do this, just go for Scamacca. I personally would rather a player that was committed to the club. Now, I'm not suggesting Broja is not committed to West Ham. I think he probably wants it. I do think this is Chelsea's decision. And then it occurred to me here, and this is actually a very smart move by Chelsea. You may remember a week or two ago, I did a video where I suggested that this is when Everton were interested in Broja, when Newcastle were interested in Broja. I said, look, I thought we should be saying to Chelsea, look, if you go and sell Broja to either one of those two, we won't do business with you when eventually Declan Rice gets to the last year of his contract. We won't sell to you. So I thought there should be almost like an underhand gentleman's not underhand, but you know, a little stealthy gentleman's agreement, if you like. Now I look at it here, and maybe this is not quite that. This is of a massive advantage to Chelsea here, because let's say Broja does come in, he signs on loan and he plays really, really well. I think the accepted way Declan's deal plays out is that he plays one more season in West Ham, then we sell him. We exercise the 2-year option. He has 2 years left on his contract, and we try and sell him for big money. At the moment, Broja's value, as we understand it, is £25 to £30 million. As a good season in the Premier League with West Ham, that's going to rise massively. And I do wonder if this is being set up as basically a trade, as almost like a trade deal. So Chelsea can turn around and say, well, Broja is now worth 50 million. You think Declan's worth 100 million? We'll give you Broja plus 50 million. I just wonder if that's going to happen. And initially, I thought, oh, I don't like that at all. Then I started to have a little think about it. But before I tell you any more, a little bit of a teaser, not quite a cliffhanger. It's not quite a... That was EastEnders, by the way. Not quite a cliffhanger moment. Before I do, this video is sponsored by the OneFootball app, which you can download by clicking that link below, or that one up there. Now, the OneFootball app is packed full of stories, transfer rumours, reviews of the Reading game you'll have just watched. But the most important thing about OneFootball app is you can tailor it so it becomes the app that you want it to be. You only have to get West Ham news. That's what I do, because when you sign up and it is free, you click the button that says I support West Ham. It gathers all the news for you. So it's got all this Onana stuff, it's got all this Broja stuff, all the Scamacca stuff, everything you need to stay ahead of the game in terms of your West Ham news is on the OneFootball app. Just use the link below to download it to your mobile device. So, the loan deal. And I thought about it. I thought, well, hold on a second. Let's play this out a little bit, okay? Let's say Broja comes and he does badly. I mean, he's a bit crap. Then I guess we haven't bought him, have we? Because I thought initially all the deal was to the advantage of Chelsea. If he does crap, we can just give him back, right? And then they don't get to offset this huge chunk of money. If it gets to the end of the season and Broja is brilliant, he's had an excellent campaign, and he somehow becomes worth 50 million. I mean, if he's worth 50 million, he's had an outstanding campaign. Then we are actually getting an outstanding player who will only be 21. And bearing in mind, we're going to lose Declan anyway. Would that be such a bad thing? Actually, I would suggest we're probably getting good value for it. Now, this is where the Onana thing comes in. I think still, I haven't fully decided yet, by the way. I'm still sort of processing it. I still almost would prefer us to tell Chelsea, no, we're not going to do that. And if in David Moyes there's not a lot between Scamacca and Broja, I think we should go and get Scamacca because he's our player and we can train him up to be what we want him to be without the threat of him basically doing one and leaving. However, as I say, this is where Onana comes into it. Now, it is Amadou. I do believe it is Amadou. Let me just double check. It is Amadou Onana, who's of course the Lille midfielder who we've been interested in. We've made apparently 3 bids for him now. But there are other clubs interested. One of them is Liverpool. Now, maybe we have got a finite amount of money. In fact, I'm pretty sure we have. I think it's fair to say probably our transfer budget is a little bit more than a lot of us thought it would be. So how about this? Because it's easy to look at just Broja loan thing with just sort of doom and gloom, if you want. Apparently, Liverpool are now interested in Onana. We haven't met the club's valuation. What this allows us to do, I think, if we loan Broja, is use a little bit more money, get Onana. If this is the guy, again, he's only 20, and he looks to be really good. So this would be Declan Rice's replacement, eventually. So get him now without having our pants pulled down. There's other clubs sniffing around, or so we think. It could just be agent talk, by the way. Go and get him done. Get the deal done now. Get that player over the line. Still leave some money in the bank as well to bring your winger in or your fullback, whatever the case may be. And then you still, hopefully, if everything goes right, get Broja next season. And what you don't have to do at that point is get your pants pulled down by buying Declan Rice's replacement for over the odds, because every club are looking, thinking, well, hey, look, West Ham have got 100-odd million. Well, of course, we won't have 100-odd million because we'll have traded Broja for him. If it works out, Broja's had a really, really good campaign. And I don't know, what would be a good campaign for a striker if he scored 15 goals next season? Would that make him worth 50? It probably wouldn't make him a £50 million player, would it? So I'm not so sure. I think he'd probably have to score sort of almost 20 goals to be a £50 million player. And then, well, he'd sort of probably be worth it, wouldn't he? In terms of, we'd still be able to improve the squad and use whatever money came in for Declan plus whatever money from next season to build upon it again. I just don't know. It felt a little bit weird. I'd prefer to buy him. I've not given up. I do wonder if this is a negotiating tactic, not just for Chelsea to be able to get Declan Rice, but in terms of Chelsea to try and get a little bit more money out of West Ham. I do wonder about that. But I wouldn't be adverse to it. And if that's who David Moyes really gets really wants, then that's who he should go and get. And if it's only by loan, then that doesn't necessarily mean that he can't sign on full-time and he won't become a full-time West Ham player. But I do think for myself, a little bit disappointed with it, actually. I'd be a little bit disappointed if we only then got him on loan. That disappointment would be, I think, mitigated somewhat, though, if we then went and spent the striker money on other positions. And I think we're only about 3 players off having a pretty damn good first team with some people in reserve who are going to go onto the bench who David Moyes would be keen to use. But there's no doubt about it, after being at the Reading game yesterday, that the striker is it's crucially important. I think I sort of laughed a little bit at the notion that Moyes might want to bring in 2 strikers. I didn't believe it, and I still don't believe it. But actually, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I see everybody's trying to make out that Ben Brereton, Diaz. I can't even remember. Apparently, there was another club was interested in Diaz. It was unrealistic. It was maybe Tottenham. Tottenham were linked with him. Tottenham. He's not good enough for Tottenham. He wouldn't get anywhere near their front line. He really wouldn't. However, bearing in mind he was priced at 30-odd million. If you get him for what is rumoured to be 12 million, that ain't a bad backup striker for 12 million. Actually, I wouldn't be adverse to getting 2 strikers and one of them being him. What I don't want is him as our main striker. As a substitute, someone on the bench that David Moyes is going to use, absolutely brilliant. No problem at all with that. In the same way that Traore, I know I say I like Traore at 50 million, which is what he was quoted a season or 2 ago, would have been too much. At 10 million, as somebody that David Moyes is probably going to look on that bench, I'm going to use him, then it presents good value. So it's a tough one. I think, initial disappointment when I first heard about the Broja, the loan move, but loans have worked for us in the past. They have. And Jesse Lingard, regardless of what's happened now, that loan did work for us at the time. He was even though he was only here for 6 months, they were a good 6 months. It helped us qualify for Europe. The Souček loan was a really, really good loan. That really worked out for us. Yes, he signed permanently after us. Not all loans work, of course. The Crowell loan didn't work at all, did it? But then again, the Areola ultimately has worked because we ended up with a good goalkeeper in Europe last season, and we've now got a really good goalkeeper who's probably going to be our first choice. I think he is, don't you? I think he probably is. Anyway, there you go. Just my thoughts on it. I'd be interested to know what yours are. This story's gonna run and run. I really do think. Apparently, by the way, just in case you're wondering, that injury that he had because he was wearing a protective boot is not as bad as first of all. Anyway, I'll catch up with you tomorrow.